I'm Stephanie, 28. Standing in the aisle of the local grocery store, I spot a figure that sends a jolt through me. It's my father. He looks diminished, his frame thinner, and his face etched with the lines of a life that's taken its toll. He's holding a tattered coupon booklet, his eyes scanning the prices of generic frozen dinners. When he sees me, his expression flickers from surprise to something unreadable, perhaps a mix of shame and resignation. "You look good," he says softly, his voice barely above a whisper. "Healthy," I reply, my tone even. He hesitates, then finally speaks. "I know we messed up, Stephanie. We failed you when you needed us most. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know I understand what we lost." I look at him, the man who once held so much power over my life. His words, though sincere, can't erase the pain and betrayal. "Thank you for saying that," I tell him. "But understanding what you lost doesn't undo the damage." He nods slowly, his eyes downcast. "I know. I just hope someday you might give us a chance to show we've learned." "Maybe someday," I say, though we both know the likelihood is slim. I turn and walk away, feeling a strange pang in my chest. It's not guilt or regret, but pity for a man who traded love for control and ended up with nothing. As I make my way out of the store, I'm transported back in time to that fateful day in the ICU. The beeping of the heart monitor was a constant reminder of my fight for survival. Tubes were snaking in and out of my arms, and the air was thick with the smell of antiseptic. I was lying there, weak and vulnerable, when my phone buzzed. It was a text from my father, a photo of him on a Las Vegas golf course, a drink in his hand, with the caption, "Living my best life." And then came the words that would change everything. "Maybe dying will make you interesting." I stared at the screen, the words burning into my mind. The rage that welled up inside me was like a wildfire, consuming the fear that had been gripping me. In that moment, I made a decision. I would survive this, and when I did, I'd make sure they'd never use me again. It all started when I landed my first tech job at 22. It was like winning the lottery. The salary was more than I'd ever imagined, and I thought I could finally give my parents the life they deserved after all their hard work. At first, it felt good to pay off their credit card debt and cover a few bills. But just this once turned into every month. One day, my father called me. "Stephanie, my truck needs a transmission repair. Can you help?" "Sure, Dad," I said without hesitation. I didn't realize then that it was the beginning of a never-ending cycle. As the years went by, I was covering more and more of their expenses. When my mother decided the kitchen needed a remodel, I signed the check. When my older brother, Ryan, lost yet another job and couldn't pay his rent, I stepped in. He spent his weekends partying in Vegas, but I never complained. I told myself they cared, that they just didn't know how to show it. But then a year before my ICU stay, I started setting boundaries. I said no to funding Ryan's business idea and refused to pay for my mother's cosmetic surgery. That's when everything started to change. My father went cold. "You're being selfish, Stephanie. Family helps each other," he would say, trying to guilt me. My mother started complaining to relatives about my behavior. "She thinks she's too good for us now," I heard her say in a phone call. And Ryan stopped calling unless he needed something. Then pneumonia hit me. At first, it felt like a bad flu, but it quickly got worse. I was rushed to the ER, my oxygen levels dangerously low. I remember thinking, at least my family will be here soon. But they weren't. When I called my father, the phone rang twice and then went to voicemail. I tried my mother, same result. Ryan finally picked up on the fourth ring, his voice groggy. "What's up?" "It's early," he said. "I'm in the ICU, Ryan. It's bad. Can you get Mom and Dad and come here?" I pleaded, my throat raw. There was a long pause.
"Yeah."
Probably not. They're in Vegas this weekend. Dad's got some golf thing. Mom's at the spa. I'm here for the blackjack tables." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You're in Vegas, too?" I asked, my voice rising.
"Yeah. Why?"
"Because I'm in a hospital bed with an infection that might kill me. That's why," I said, my anger boiling over. He sighed, like I was overreacting. "Look, I'll let them know, but it's all prepaid. Flights, hotels, you get it." I hung up without another word. Hours later, I saw my father's post on social media. the photos of him having a great time in Vegas. And then came that text. The next morning, my fever dipped just enough for my head to clear. I lay in that hospital bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying my father's words over and over. I reached for my phone and opened my banking app. I started canceling all the recurring payments I'd been making for them. Each click on the screen felt like a step towards reclaiming my life. I called my financial advisor, Lily. Lily, I need you to remove my parents and Ryan as beneficiaries on all my accounts, effective immediately, I said, my voice firm. She hesitated. That's a big step, Stephanie. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything in my life, I replied. Next, I called my lawyer, Tom. Tom, I want to revoke the power of attorney and rewrite my will. They're out. All of them. He didn't press for details. Understood. I'll draft the paperwork. After those calls, I felt a strange sense of lightness. Not physically, because my body was still a battleground, but deep inside, I knew I was taking back control. It didn't take long for the calls to start. That evening, my father's name flashed across my phone screen. I let it ring out. 2 minutes later, it rang again. I answered. Stephanie, there's something wrong with the credit card. It was declined at dinner, he said, his voice tight. That's strange. Maybe call the bank, I said, my tone flat. We did. They said it was reported stolen.
Did you? He asked.
Yes, I said, cutting him off. While I was lying in the ICU, and you were golfing in Vegas. Seemed like someone else was using it. There was a long silence on the other end. Stephanie, be reasonable. We're stuck here without money. I thought you paid for the trip yourselves. That's what you told me, I said, and then I hung up. The calls kept coming. Ryan was furious, accusing me of stranding them. My mother was sobbing, trying to tug at my heartstrings. But I stood my ground. As the days went by, things got worse for them. They lost their house to foreclosure. Ryan posted or ran on Facebook, calling me a monster. But my friends and colleagues stood up for me, exposing their lies and manipulation. I filed for a restraining order against all of them. At the hearing, they showed up dressed in their best, trying to paint a picture of a misunderstood family. But I presented the evidence. The text messages, the social media posts, the voicemails filled with threats. The judge didn't hesitate. A temporary restraining order was granted on the spot, and a month later, the permanent order was issued. No contact, no proximity within 500 feet, no posting about me online. Violation meant arrest. The silence that followed was a sweet relief. I could finally breathe without the constant fear of their harassment. A week later, I got a call from my old boss, Mark. He told me about a director of cybersecurity position at a fast-growing tech firm, Argent Solutions. It was an opportunity of a lifetime, twice my old salary, stock options, and a budget to build the security division from the ground up. I accepted the offer without hesitation. On my first day, I walked into a corner office, surrounded by a team of skilled engineers. The CEO leaned over at lunch and said, "The work you did saved our partners millions. We don't take that lightly." Meanwhile, my family was falling apart. My cousin, Emily, kept me updated. Ryan was out of work again. My mother was posting vague Facebook statuses about being betrayed. My father was working long hours at a warehouse. I didn't feel satisfaction, but a deep sense of certainty that I'd made the right decision. I bought a house in the hills with a view of the city skyline. I adopted a golden retriever named Max, who greeted me with unconditional love every day. I started hiking, joined a cooking class, and even started dating Daniel, a financial analyst with a great sense of humor. Looking back, I realized that the best revenge isn't about hurting those who hurt you. It's about living a life so full and happy that their absence becomes a blessing. I've finally found the peace and the life that I've always deserved. And as I sit on my porch, Daniel beside me and Max at my feet, watching the city lights twinkle below, I know that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.